is Denise Cristel Pilosinyara, and today we are going to talk about the argument that I have made for this activity. My argument goes like this. If she doesn't get on the Ferris wheel, she will regret it. She does not regret it, therefore she got on the Ferris wheel. So the first premise of my argument is, if she doesn't get on the Ferris wheel, she will regret it. The second premise is, she does not regret it. And the conclusion, therefore, she got on the Ferris wheel. And the symbolical form of my argument looks like this. Okay, so now let's check if our argument is valid or invalid. Let's start with D. D is true, true, false, and false. For our R, we have true, false, true, and false. To get to our first premise, we have to get first the not D. Our not D is false, false, true, and true. Our first premise, which is not D implies R, is true, 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 and false. And now let's go to our second premise, not R. Not R is false, true, false, and true. For our conclusion, our D is true, true, false, and false. So that is all for my argument. Thank you for watching.
Hello, good day. My name is Nicole Vocalares. Together, let's assess if the following argument is valid or invalid. So, without further ado, let's go right into the discussion. Let R represent the statement, my computer broke down. And let G represent, I lose all my important files. If my computer broke down, I lose all my important files. Therefore, my computer hasn't broke down. So this is the symbolic form of the argument. So let's take a look in the picture attached. So first premise is R implies G. The second premise is not G, and the conclusion is therefore not G. So first step, let's start with the standard truth table form and then include the not G. So this is the not G. So to get the not G, just negate the G. So if the G is true, the not G is false. If the G is false, the not G is true. If the G is true and the not G is false. If the G is false, the not G is true. And as we can see, it is just simply the opposite of the G. So next, second step, include the first premise, second premise, and the conclusion. So let's go to the first premise. So the first premise is R implies G. So take a look in the first column and second column. So as we can see this, there is only one false and the rest is true in the first premise. So if the R is true and the G is true, it is true. If the R is true and the G is false, it is false. Always remember, if the R is true and then the G is false, it is false and the rest is true. So let's continue. R if F and G is T, it is true. If R if F, G is false, it is true. So in the second premise, is not G. So just negate the G. So G is true, not G is false. G is false, not G is true. If G is true, not G is false. If G is false, then not G is true. And then in the conclusion, so conclusion is not R. Just simply negate the R. So R is true, the not R is false. The R is true, it is not false. If the R is false, the not R is true, and the R if false, the not true is true. So as we can see in the row 4 in this row, the first premise is true and the second premise is true. And it is the only row in which all the premises are true, and also the conclusion in the row 4 is true. Therefore, so the argument is valid. So that's all. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Ivy Claire P. Plaza, and this is my example of an argument. If her load will expire, then she cannot attend online class. Her load didn't expire, therefore she can attend online class. Is my example of argument. Let E represent her load will expire. Let O represent she can attend online class. The symbolic form of the argument is the first premise is E implies not O, which is if her load will expire, then she cannot attend online class. The second premise, which is not E, is her load didn't expire. Next is the conclusion, which is O, therefore she can attend online class. The table for this argument is first and second column. We can obtain this. Column is not O, which is only the inverse of O. And in the fourth column, we have the first premise, which is E implies not O. So if E is E and not O is F, we can have F as discussed in the previous lesson, and so on. And for the fifth column, we'll have the second premise, or the not E, which is the inverse of E in the first column. And lastly, we'll have the conclusion O, so copy O in the second column. As you can observe, the premises in row 4 is both T, but then the conclusion is F. Therefore, we can say that the argument is invalid, because based on the definition of arguments, if both premises are true, the conclusion should also be true.
Hi, I am Rhea Maythaganes and this is my argument. If I am going to cook, then I will buy ingredients. I can't buy ingredients, therefore I can't cook. So, ang akong gigamit na symbolic statement is C ug I. So, if I am going to cook, mo na siya kung C. Then, I will buy ingredients mo na kung I. I can't buy ingredients mo na kung not I, therefore I can't cook not C. Ang akong symbolic form is C implies I, not I, then akong conclusion is not C. Next. So, ang C ug I is given na siya. So, ako pagtaon is first premise, second premise, and conclusion. Sa ako ang first premise na ako'y C approaches I. So, magtanaw ko sa C value ug sa I value. Sa ako ang C na ako'y true, sa akong I na ako'y true, so sa akong ibutang sa akong C implies I is true. And follow. Next is second premise. Sa akong second premise na ako'y not I.
So, ang akong ibutang diri is ang opposite sa I nga value. So, ang sa I nga value is nakoy true. So, ang sa second premise is ang akong ibutang is false and follow. Next is ang conclusion. Sa conclusion na ako'y not C. So, ang ako'y butang diri is opposite sa C. So, sa C is na ako'y true. So, ang ako'y butang sa kong conclusion is false and follow.
Good day. My name is Jacqueline A. Pancho, and now I'm going to show you my example of argument. And together, let's find out if the argument is valid or invalid. Let C represents if I give my mom a candy, and B represents she cannot have biscuits. In symbolic form, the argument will be if I give my mom a candy, then she cannot have biscuits. She will not have candy, therefore she will have biscuits. As C implies not B will be the first premise, not C second premise, then B will be our conclusion. So let's construct a truth table first and then include the not B. To get the not B, just negate the B. As we observe, the not B is just the opposite of B. Next, we will include the first premise, second premise, and the conclusion. If C is true and the not B is false, then we obtain false in the first premise, so on and so forth. And the not C will be the opposite of the first column C. And as we see in the conclusion B, it's just the same or just copy the second column, which is B. As we observe, the conclusion in row 4 is false, and both the premises are true, then this argument is invalid. That's all, and have a good day.